Hi Tim, how are you going? Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
I just wanted to discuss a few things with you regarding what you do for a job. So maybe to start us off, do you just want to tell me what you do for a job and what it actually involves?
Okay. So I'm the ITIM manager for capital projects and large oil and gas company.
Oh, okay.
And my job involves all the technology components plus the communication components that go into that business. So from drilling a hole in the ground right through to invoicing the customer at the end of the chain.
Wow, okay, so obviously you work in a pretty big company, I'm guessing. So judging from being in such a big business environment, I would say that communication would be very important, and good communication would be, highly prioritised in your working environment. How would you use communication?
Okay, communication is used at a number of levels. So when we talk about technology type communication, we have a large gas fields that need to be covered by communication so our workers can work. If we're talking about people communication is very important to us because we're a safety orientated company, and it's critically important for us to communicate different events, from everything from the weather to issues with roads to our broader workforce. So communication at all levels is extremely important to us.
Okay, well, say you were in a situation where communication wasn't used correctly. What would be a result of that, and how would you go about resolving it?
Okay, so if communication wasn't used correctly, it could have some fairly serious safety consequences, and we could actually hurt people, which is something we strive not to do. So the consequences can be quite horrific if we don't communicate well. To resolve that, we've put in a whole stack of different systems to make sure that people can communicate both using technology and using people skills. So communication, as I said, is very important for us for the entire business.
Okay, so I feel as though if you were in that environment, communication went wrong, it would be a big deal, correct? Would you say that that's what would happen?
It could be potentially quite horrific, yes. So, it could be that we haven't got the information from a gas field, which is very important to us because we could overpressure a gas line and have an explosion. So that's the ultimate end worst case scenario. So.
Okay, so it definitely can be pretty bad.
It can be extremely bad.
Okay, so have you ever been in a situation where communication did go wrong and it was, a big deal did happen?
Fortunately, nothing in that like that in our business to date. So, and we pray that never happens.
Okay. Yeah.
But certainly, where communication hasn't gone well and it's resulted in some issues, is maybe we haven't communicated the location for a drill rig to drill, and it's drilled maybe 50 metres from where he should have drilled, and that can have consequences in terms of our stakeholder management, because we're usually drilling for gas on farmers' properties. So if we're drilling in the wrong spot, that obviously can have some other consequences.
Okay, so would it be more of a consequence to the farmer, so your customer, or more to the business? What would you say?
For both. So the farmer might be very unhappy because he might have been planning to plant a crop where we've just drilled a hole, and obviously from the business, it's very bad for our community engagement that we're not doing the right thing. So we might still get the gas, so that mightn't be too much of an issue there, but certainly it's from a perspective of the business name, it can be very, very important for us.
Okay. So what implementations have you put into your company to make communication better, so that you communicate better with the clients and also with the employees, so your boss, even like your fellow colleagues and things like that? What would you do to make sure it's done to the best it can be done? Okay,
so we have multiple layers of communication. So simple things like most companies have is, like email. We also do SMS alerts to let people know different situations at times. But we also obviously telephone, but we have also mobile, satellite, a whole stack of different ways of communicating with people. So we communicate on many, many levels using many, many strategies.
Okay. So I feel as though, because I'm going into nursing, and obviously communication would be a huge deal, within that type of employment. how would you go? So with an employee, a fellow employee, what would you do if there was conflict? Arrived, and how would you deal with that? Because I feel like that could happen to me in my workplace, so I'd like to know how to deal with it. Just to get a better perspective.
Okay, so dealing with people is the hardest part of any manager's job, and I have quite a number of staff underneath me, and there's always the potential for conflict. And I think the best way to handle it is always with a cool head.
Okay.
So try and see an issue from both sides of the argument, and there is always two sides, and try and sympathise, yet not condone maybe the actions of someone, but understand why they've come to that point and why they're feeling a little tense. So you really have to. I think the best way to solve conflict is be a really good listener. Okay. So talk little, listen lots, and then come back with some reflections.
Okay.
And obviously at the end of it, you want to get a strategy with those parties, so they can come together and work mutually in a better way in the future.
Okay, so you probably say that always, if conflict did arrive, try to look at everyone's perspective and resolve from there and hear what everyone has to say. Would
Absolutely.
you say that would be the best way?
Yep.
Okay.
Don't just jump in straight in with your opinion, because your opinion might not be 100% accurate, because you may not know the whole story. So try and flesh out what the whole issue is first, and then make a calm and collective response.
Okay. So looking overall at the idea of communication and how it works within a working environment, would you say it's probably one of the most important things to have a good focus on?
Absolutely, because it can actually, from a corporate perspective, how the top level management communicate with all the staff is critical to developing a culture of confidence. So if you don't communicate well right through the entire ranks of the staff, you can have lots of cultural issues within the business. So it's extremely important to get a message across. So we talk about at work our core values and our goals as a business, constantly to enforce that to the employees, so the whole rank and file understand exactly where we're going, and we're all on the journey together.
Okay, so it's important to not only communicate, but also stick as a team, work together in your communication.
Absolutely. So if you're not working as a team and you're not communicating effectively, then you're not going to achieve the goals that you need to achieve to get to the end story of the business.
Okay.
So it can be critical. So the worst thing you can have is miscommunication or no communication, and people will go off doing what they think are right, and at the end of the day you have people working in different paths.
Okay, so if miscommunication did happen within your workplace, how would you go about solving it? To say someone forgot to tell someone an important detail in a project, in one of your projects, because you do work on the lines and things like that. How would you go about resolving that? What would be the first thing you do?
Okay, so the first thing would be to correct the communication. So, and depending on what level you're talking about, if you're talking enterprise-wide, then obviously you need to get that communication out quickly. If you're talking about an individual who's misconstrued or not taken some information they've been given correctly, then that might be a quiet conversation, and that happens quite often. People take a piece of information differently, and maybe you just need to have that quiet conversation and say, hey, actually I think this is really what it meant, and try and then reinforce the correct message back to the individual.
Okay, so in the industry that I'm going to, would you say if I forgot to tell a patient an important detail, would you recommend first discussing and saying what I did wrong and then going over it first and then reflecting on going back on what I could have done better? Is that what you do?
Well, yes, because I think you need to correct the problem first,
Okay.
and that's your first point of work.
Yeah.
And then go back and say, well, okay, let's have a look at how we could have done that differently and not got to the same situation again. Because everyone makes mistakes.
Yes.
But a continual mistake is obviously a much worse thing. So, to make a mistake, everyone makes mistakes, come back and reflect and see how you could have done it better, so you don't repeat the same mistake.
Okay, so more personally to you now, would you say communication is really important in how you go about your day-to-day life in your job?
Oh, I think because I have a fair number of employees under me, communication is probably about at least a quarter of my daily work.
Okay, wow.
It's about talking to people, getting them to understand what my expectations are, and also across my peers, through the senior management of the company, right down, because I want everyone to have the same message that I'm trying to achieve.
Okay, so
it's I'm constantly having to talk to people,
okay.
understand what they need, they understand what I need, and we'll get to the same journey together.
Okay, so it's basically, you'd probably say that communication is all about working in a team mainly, and striving towards communicating with each other in an effective way where you can get the job done efficiently. Would you say that's
absolutely
the main thing?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't communicate, you will have people going down different paths, and at the end they could be convergent. So you could have people doing totally different things and not get to where you need to be.
Okay.
So it is absolutely important you have clear, constant communication, and across all levels.
Okay, wow. So I really hope that I can use these strategies within my own employment, when I do get there one day, once I've finished my degree. So thank you so much for talking with me today and speaking to me about how you would use communication in your workplace. I really appreciate it, and hopefully what you've told me today will help me to work towards the best I can be in my own industry. So thank you so much.
No worries.
Thanks, Tim. See you later.
Bye now.
Okay. How long did it go for?